everyone, welcome back to Butterfly and the Equality Justice Alliance Mental Health Series. And we have Dr. Suriya Daya, and she is a registered registered educational and child psychologist in Barbados. She was trained in the UK, and we're going to be talking briefly about drug and alcohol use as it relates to mental health. So
such a big topic.
well, this is briefly, so yeah.
Yes, drug and alcohol abuse as it relates to mental health. Where do you want to start?
So let's talk about people having mental health challenges, breakdowns, mental health disorders, and how they find alcohol and drugs to be used as a coping mechanism.
Yeah. So people turn to alcohol and drugs.
Why are you twitching?
Like you said, to use as a coping mechanism because they don't have the coping skills in their belt, or strategies in their belt. You okay there?
My eye is twitching, people.
Bless you. So it's about not having those things under your belt to pull out when you are, I don't know, just getting out of a relationship, had a bad breakup, family issue, whatever it is that might lead you to go to drug and alcohol abuse. There are lots of services that you can seek for that as well. There's psychiatric, there's burnout house, there's a hospital, polyclinics, private. There's lots of other rehab treatment centers as well. But it's about having people being more self-aware, I think, more than anything. And having a self-awareness to know, okay, something's not going quite right. Why am I turning to drugs or alcohol to cancel all and numb all the pain and all the feelings? And you're actually not dealing with anything because you are just numbing it. And then what happens when that wears off?
Yeah. You want something else.
Yeah, you want it again, right? Or you go do something else that's not a healthy way of coping with it.
So I can admit I drink, but I don't believe I have a problem. However, I know growing up, my family history, there is alcoholism in my family, and I know they use that to deal with, in their mind, everything that didn't go how they wanted it to go.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I never wanted to become them because I saw how it pretty much derailed their lives, their functionality, work, their parenting skills. So how do you find, is there a big set of research into hereditary alcoholism and drugs?
Yeah. Firstly, I want to say you're really strong for sharing that. I'm brave. And recognizing that you don't want to go down that path.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that will go, oh yeah, well, my mom used to drink, my dad used to drink, my aunt used to drink, grand used to drink. Obviously I'm going to do it. And they also then go into this self-fulfilling prophecy of, they used to do it, so I'm going to do it and everything will be fine. And
normalizing the
yeah,
behavior.
Absolutely. But there is a hereditary component. I think drug and alcohol use is it can be passed down, and people do say, if you know you have a history of drug or alcohol abuse, maybe seek help for yourself before it even starts. But it's about knowing when to seek help, and knowing that, like I said, being more self-aware. So knowing that, yes, there is a history of drug and alcohol abuse in my family. Maybe I need to seek help just in case. It's like cancer, right? If you know your breast cancer runs in your family or some kind of cancer runs in your family, you're gonna go get screened.
Right.
Just in case. Preventative measures. So same thing. Preventative measures, early intervention. Same thing with drug and alcohol abuse.
Okay. So, do you, in your practice, see young adults and teens using alcohol and drugs more freely, or do they use it to cope? Has it presented a case where they've lost control completely
Hmm. So the ones that I would say are over that edge where they lose control, I have to refer them to a psychiatrist. Just because that might be a more of a deeper issue that I can't tackle, or that might not be in my competency to tackle. However, I am seeing quite a lot of kids and young adults using, not only just in a social setting, but yeah, abusing it, drugs and alcohol, to cope with many things. And most of that stuff are family issues.
Yeah, the family.
Family or relationships, I should say.
Those things
Yeah.
definitely both play an integral part in how people start using or approach or even stay away
Of
from,
course.
because
Yeah.
everyone won't use those things to cope with what they're dealing
Yeah.
with. So, what do you think about the drug use when it comes to persons? So sometimes persons, when they get off the rails addiction, and sometimes they end up in front of the court system. The court sometimes would do a mandatory referral to psychologists, psychiatrists, any mental health professional, so these persons get help. However, sometimes the justice system also fails because they think everybody is the same and do a one,
which is not
yeah,
the case. And
a
we know that
blanket type.
there is no one size fits all for nothing. But unfortunately, it does happen.
Yeah.
I think you should probably get a lawyer to speak about that stuff. Just, you know. But yeah, there are failures that happen. Every justice system, every part of the world, I don't think ever gets it right. I don't even know. I don't even know where to start with how to even tackle that.
Yeah. So you'll definitely get a lawyer or somebody else
Yeah.
to speak on the legality of that side.
Yeah. But going into psychiatric, I guess, could be a bit daunting, especially for a young person. Not only the stigma that goes on with going to psychiatric, but having that one size fits all approach. That does happen. Doesn't always happen, but it does happen sometimes. But it's a real tricky topic.
Yeah. So,
trying not to be, trying to stay in my lane.
So from personal experience, I had a partner and he got in trouble with the law, and he was sent there to the psychiatric hospital, and he was placed on the A ward based on the occupancy of persons. The ward where any person, a regular citizen, would go was full. So they put him in the A ward. The A ward is very awful. So it's behind a big rotting gate, and everyone that's in this area is in hand and feet shackles linked with a chain. So when you go to visit them, you have to sign in. You have to be searched, and then you're placed in an area there's no privacy. And if you then walk around, you can see persons that aren't able to speak. They've been heavily sedated, and these persons have a history of drug, alcohol. Some of them may be criminals based on whatever they've done, and they've been placed there for prolonged periods of time with no revision after. So these people are there for years, way past what they would have been sentenced for, or placed there on hold for, and they aren't getting the necessary care to put them back into society. And this was very traumatizing for me because seeing my boyfriend at the time, when I know he just had a breakdown from cocaine, because he was addicted to cocaine, and seeing him in shackles, and the dorms that they sleep in, the beds are literally a foot apart. There are no sheets, there's no fancy anything. If you have a pillow,
it's like a prison, right?
Praise God, it is like prison. And there is a guard at all times, and the persons overseeing the area, this ward, are not friendly at all. When you're in there, you start to feel like you're a prisoner.
Yeah.
It starts to affect
Yeah.
you, and I find that people don't talk about the psychiatric hospital in depth because some of them maybe have never experienced that side of the psychiatric hospital. But the psychiatric hospital also has now a children's
the
ward,
center,
and I think it's unfortunate because I know that they don't have any experience with LGBT children, and then they're presenting other symptoms. Some of them may have anxiety disorders, some of them may be depressed, some of them may be psychotic, and the first thing that they look to do is induce drugs, pretty much putting you in an almost catatonic state.
Yeah.
And it's really heartbreaking to see adults in that state where they're pushed around in a wheelchair and you know this person can physically walk, but they're not able to because of the drugs.
Yeah.
So imagine when it happens to children.
Yeah, of course.
That is definitely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about and again, we don't want to get you in trouble. What do you think about the range of care that they provide there?
Yeah, I would like to say that I would hope that they're not putting it in a one-size-fits-all, here's some drugs because of XYZ, just sedate them, whatever. I don't know if there's a program or not being implemented. I don't actually know the inner workings of psychiatric hospital, so I can't personally say so. I can only say from stories I have heard or from working with people that work in there or that have done internships in there, that I've given supervision to and that sort of stuff. And the stories are not nice.
Never positive. They never are.
They honestly are not nice.
And then I find it's usually a well-kept secret because if people really know the things that happen in there, a lot of people probably would try to, Lord forbid, burn the psychiatric hospital. But it's not a competent place to seek mental health care.
I think it's one place that government probably needs to start looking into more. I think the psychiatric often gets left aside, just like mental health, for lots of various reasons. That usually gets pushed aside quite easily, and I think it does need a whole system rejig.
Definitely.
And a whole look at the programs and the rehabilitative centers and all that comes with the psychiatric hospital. I think it needs a big remake. Not to say that there are not some really good people in there that are doing their jobs, but I would like to hear more positives than negatives coming from it, and I never actually do. From even patients themselves that have been in there, I never ever hear a positive thing come from it, and I think that's really heartbreaking. That you have to go through that and not know if what you're going through is the best thing, or are you receiving the best care, or the fact that you even have to question that, I think is a big red flag. I would love to think that all the professionals in there are doing their jobs. Trying to be diplomatic.
Right.
But it's overwhelming too. Like, how many professionals are in there? Maybe they are short of staff. Maybe they are overwhelmed. Like you said, like there was no space on one part, so your friend had to go into the A ward, which I'm sure they didn't belong into.
Definitely didn't.
So there's probably a lot of people in there, just like at the QEH, that are just using up space that others could be using. So I don't know what the program is in place to get those out and into a more of a rehabilitative type something, preventative, I don't know, some sort of, I think more than anything, maybe education needs to happen. Some education of how to run a place and have all the staff trained at a particular level. And I'm not saying that there might be staff that are not trained at that level, but they're obviously, like, you shouldn't have to go in the ward that you went into and feel that way, that people were unmannerly or not nice. Why? You're going into a psychiatric hospital. This is yes, in some cases it's like a prison, because you do have criminals in there, and you do have hardcore drug users that might have had drug-induced schizophrenia or whatever. But at the same time, why do you have to feel like that as a visitor coming in? Like, that's a bit questionable. I'm sure when you go to, I've only been to a psychiatric hospital in the UK, all the staff were friendly. Like, you never felt like, oh my god, I'm walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
You never felt like that. Never.
I guess it has something to do with, again, being short-staffed, not comfortably trained at a standard level.
Yeah.
Because sometimes some of the nurses that go there are general nurses, general health nurses.
Yeah.
They haven't been trained in mental health, so it's a different field where they go into that and are threatened or attacked by some of the patients and not knowing how to cope with it.
Of course.
But then sometimes persons that have been there for years, in one case, a nurse or a male orderly, he was seen attacking a patient with a stick. And it was in the paper. There were cases where some of the patients got pregnant, and if you're there for psychiatric help, that is taking advantage of persons when they're not in the right frame of mind to make any decisions for themselves.
No.
So it can be a bit tricky.
Yeah, I think also things like maybe the law in when it comes to mental health maybe also needs a rejig from government.
Definitely, there needs to be
legislation needs
legislative
to be
and policy
updated.
amendments.
Yes, for sure. It's probably well, not probably. It's for sure outdated.
For sure.
So that definitely needs to be updated. I think that will then set the precedence for everything else coming under that. But it all starts with government and legislation
and education, which is what we are doing, and
education.
hopefully this comes into play when we go to the mental health
Also,
network.
I would make people aware that if you also know that you have a history of mental illness in your family or any mental health concerns, and you are going to turn to drugs and alcohol, maybe think twice, because those two things never mesh. So yeah, please try and seek help. I think that's the main message.
Yes.
Try and seek help. Early intervention and prevention.
Yes, so we're advocating for preventive measures as well.
Yeah.
So thank you muchly. And this was Dr. Suriya Daya, and we have been talking about drug and alcohol use as it relates to mental health. So thank you, and we'll see you on the next episode.